You ever hear that phrase? If you see something, say something. Yet turns out that doesn't apply when the thing you're seeing is armed, federal, and wearing a badge. January 24th, 2026, South Minneapolis. Alex Pretti, 37 years old, ICU nurse, worked through the pandemic, respected in his community. He's out on the sidewalk, filming a group of federal agents making arrests. Operation Metro surge ICE and Border Patrol in tactical gear, rolling through the neighborhood like it's Fallujah. Alex is filming. That's it. No weapon, no threat. A few minutes later, he's dead shot by a federal agent. The Department of Homeland Security says he was armed, that he posed a danger, but video footage from a neighbor's security cam. It shows a man holding a phone, standing still, no weapon, no aggression, just filming. So who's lying? Here's the part they don't want you to notice. 2 weeks before that, in the exact same city, another civilian was killed by ICE. Her name was Renee. She was sitting in her car when agents surrounded her. Moments later, she was shot and killed. ICE claimed self-defense, but local police who weren't even told the operation was happening called that explanation shaky at best. 2 Americans, both unarmed, both dead at the hands of a federal agency that wasn't he supposed to be in those neighborhoods to begin with. And yet, here we are, the agency. ICE, the mission? Operation Metro Surge, the goal? Depends who you ask. In this video, we're digging into all of it. What really happened the day Alex Pretti died, how ICE became one of the most powerful and least accountable forces on U.S. soil, the political chess match behind immigration enforcement, and why this story should terrify you. Even if you were born here. Everything here comes from court filings, public records, video footage, and first-hand accounts. Where the facts conflict, you'll hear both sides. Where there's speculation, I'll flag it. Let's get into it. That morning in South Minneapolis, it was cold, quiet, and tense. Operation Metro Surge was in full swing. ICE agents, along with Border Patrol, were running coordinated raids across immigrant-heavy neighborhoods. No heads-up to local police, no coordination with city officials, just unmarked vehicles, tactical vests, and a green light from Washington. Alex Pretti wasn't part of the operation. He wasn't even involved. He was standing on the sidewalk outside a friend's building. He saw the agents roll up, saw them start pulling people out of cars, shouting commands, detaining anyone who couldn't immediately produce ID. So, like any decent citizen in 2026, he pulled out his phone and started recording. 9:13 a.m. Alex starts filming. He's maybe 20 feet away from the main group, quiet, not interfering. 9:14 a.m. One of the agents yells at him to move back. He doesn't. He says, "I'm on a public sidewalk." 9:15 a.m. A second agent turns toward him, raises a weapon. 9 hours, 15 minutes, and 10 seconds, one shot, then another. Then chaos. Alex hits the ground, bleeding. The phone clatters beside him. He dies within minutes. Immediately, ICE releases a statement. The subject was armed and refused multiple commands. Agents feared for their safety. But here's the thing: security footage from a nearby house, synced with audio from a ring cam, tells a different story. Alex was holding his phone with both hands. There's no visible weapon, no aggressive movement. One witness told reporters he didn't even raise his voice. He just stood there filming. Then they shot him. And remember Renee? January 11th, different part of the city. She was in her car. ICE surrounded her, claimed she tried to drive into them. But again, no footage confirms that. No public release of body cam. Only her dead body and a PR statement calling it regrettable but justified. Within hours of Alex's shooting, the footage hit social media. Hashtags blew up. Protests started forming. City officials said they had no idea ICE was even operating that morning. 2 deaths, 2 weeks apart, no accountability. To understand how this even happens, we need to talk about ICE, what it is, how it got this kind of power, and why no one seems able to rein it in. So who the hell is ICE, and how did we end up with a federal agency that can shoot unarmed Americans in their own neighborhoods without so much as a warning to local cops? Let's back up. ICE, short for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, was born in 2003, right after 9/11, when fear was currency and the government was handing out blank checks in the name of national security. The Department of Homeland Security was created, and ICE became its internal enforcer, on paper. ICE was designed to target undocumented immigrants who posed a threat: violent criminals, traffickers, national security risks. In reality, that mission morphed quickly. Today, ICE has nearly 20,000 employees, an annual budget of over $8 billion, field offices in every major city, and unlike Border Patrol, which works at the edge of the country, ICE works inside it. They're the ones who knock on doors, show up at job sites, pull people out of homes, buses, or traffic stops. And here's where it gets disturbing. ICE doesn't need a warrant signed by a judge to make an arrest. They can detain someone based on suspicion alone. They can operate without informing local law enforcement. And if they say they feel threatened, they're allowed to use deadly force. Now ask yourself, how does that play out in practice? Because on January 11th, it meant Renee, sitting in her car, ended up dead. And on January 24th, it meant Alex Pretti got shot while holding a phone on a public sidewalk. This isn't a rogue agent problem, it's design. See, over the years, ICE's mandate expanded, not just chasing people without papers, but anyone they consider associated with immigration enforcement. That's how you get federal agents killing a U.S. citizen nurse in Minneapolis while claiming they feared for their safety. The agency says it's about keeping the country secure. But security for who? Because the neighborhoods they're storming don't feel safer, they feel targeted. And that brings us to the people pulling the strings. Because ICE doesn't operate in a vacuum, it takes orders, and those orders, they shift depending on who's sitting in the Oval Office. Let's be real, ICE doesn't just enforce immigration policy, it reflects it. And that policy changes depending on which party's in power, what election is coming up, and what kind of headlines they want on cable news. Under President Trump's second term, ICE was unleashed. Not just at the border, but deep into the heart of liberal cities. Enter Operation Metro Surge. It was pitched as a targeted immigration sweep in major metro areas. But in practice, it looked like military-style raids, unmarked SUVs, and federal agents roaming residential neighborhoods with assault rifles. Minneapolis was one of the first cities hit. The logic from the administration was clear. If local governments won't cooperate with deportations, we'll go in ourselves. No need to coordinate with city police. No warning to mayors or governors, just send in ICE and let them clean house. And when people pushed back, when Pretti got shot, the message was the same: we're enforcing federal law. Republican leaders lined up to defend the agents. Let's wait for the facts, they said. Our agents risk their lives daily. Democrats, meanwhile, called for investigations again. City officials demanded a federal review. Progressive lawmakers used the moment to reintroduce bills limiting ICE's reach. Same dance, different day. But here's the thing, this isn't just about left versus right. Because ICE didn't explode in power under Trump alone. Obama deported more people than any president before him. Biden promised reform, then ramped up enforcement when the border became a political liability. And Congress? They keep approving ICE's budget every single year. Why? Because immigration is a political goldmine. Both sides use it, both sides fund it, neither side actually wants to fix it. So when ICE shoots an unarmed nurse in the middle of a U.S. city, it's not a mistake, it's a feature of the system. And the system doesn't change because it works exactly the way politicians want it to. Which brings us back to Pretti, because the real question isn't just why he died, it's why ICE was there in the first place. And who benefits when they are. Let's talk about money. Because behind every moral outrage in American policy, there's a spreadsheet quietly explaining it. Immigration enforcement isn't just political, it's profitable. Start with the obvious: labor. Undocumented workers make up massive chunks of key industries: agriculture, construction, elder care, food processing. In Minnesota alone, immigrant labor keeps farms running and nursing homes staffed. So what happens when ICE storms in, detains workers, and deports breadwinners? Labor shortages, delays, costs go up, and yet ICE keeps doing it. Why? Because enforcement doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens inside a for-profit ecosystem. Private detention centers rake in billions from government contracts. Logistics firms make money transporting detainees. Surveillance companies provide tech to track, monitor, and flag immigrants, real or suspected, and corporations. They donate to both parties. They say one thing on stage: we support immigrants, then cut checks to lawmakers who vote for more raids, more funding, more ICE. It's a feedback loop of fear and funding, and in that loop, real people disappear. Families like Renee Goods left with no answers, no recourse. People like Alex Pretti shot for filming. And here's the part that should really bother you. ICE isn't just targeting undocumented immigrants anymore. They're expanding. They're going after associates, obstructionists, non-compliant entities. That's government speak for anyone who resists or records. In other words, filming a raid can now get you killed. And that's not theoretical. That's what happened to Pretti, the long-term effect. Communities go silent, people stop filming, stop asking questions, stop trusting institutions. And once that happens, the system doesn't just persist, it thrives. Because fear is cheaper than reform, and surveillance is easier than justice. So yeah, this isn't just about immigration. It's about power, who has it, who profits from it, and who pays the price when it goes unchecked. Let's cut the noise. This isn't just policy. It's politics, electoral politics, and ICE. ICE is a campaign tool. Here's how the game works. Immigrants, especially younger ones, and their US-born children overwhelmingly lean left. In swing states like Arizona, Nevada, and yes, even parts of Minnesota, they're becoming a key voting bloc. Democrats know this. So they brand themselves as the defenders fighting back against ICE, promoting humane immigration reform. It's not just compassion, it's strategy. Play the long game, win the kids, build the base. Republicans know this too, so they go the other direction, double down on enforcement, flood the airwaves with images of chaos at the border, portray ICE agents as soldiers holding the line while liberals coddle criminals. And when something like the Alex Pretti shooting happens, both sides mobilize. The left says, this is why we need oversight. The right says, this is what happens when you interfere with law enforcement. No one says, maybe I shouldn't be roaming neighborhoods with our 15s. See, the system isn't broken, it's polarized by design. One side needs ICE to scare their base, the other needs ICE to outrage theirs. And Pretti, he becomes a symbol, the nurse who filmed too much, a talking point, a thumbnail. but not a human being with a name and a life and people who loved him. That's the cost of the game. Once a system becomes politically useful, fixing it stops being the goal, prolonging it becomes the play. And that's exactly where ICE lives, not in some secure border facility, but in the no man's land between outrage and inaction. So let's pull back and look at what we've really seen. Alex Pretti was killed on January 24, 2026. That's the headline, but the deeper story? It's about how a federal agency created for national security ended up gunning down a nurse on a Minneapolis sidewalk. It's about how policy, politics, and profit aligned to build a machine no one wants to stop. Pretti didn't die because of one bad agent. He died because the system gave that agent the power to act without consequence and then covered for him. Because ICE doesn't need to prove guilt, they just need to feel threatened. Renee Good didn't lunge at anyone. She was in her car, now she's gone, and her family. Left with silence and red tape, when you give a domestic agency military-grade weapons, let them bypass local law, and remove judicial oversight, you don't get public safety. You get stories like this. You get silence in immigrant communities. You get parents afraid to send their kids to school. You get Americans born and raised, gunned down for filming agents doing their jobs, and eventually you stop noticing until it's your street, your friend, your phone. Look, I'm not going to pretend this has an easy fix. It doesn't. There's no one law, no one election that undoes a system this big. But here's what we can't do. We can't keep pretending this is normal, that ICE is just doing its job, that these deaths are unfortunate but acceptable, because the second we do that, we've chosen silence, and silence, especially when people are being shot for holding a phone, isn't neutrality, it's complicity. That's everything you need to know about the ICE shooting death case. If this made you think differently, share it. If I missed something, comments are open. Let's talk about it. This is Indict Whisper. See you next time.